Welcome back to The Explainer. So today, we're unpacking a really fascinating, deeply personal metaphysical narrative called Egypt, the Memory of Light. And let me tell you, this text totally redefines the boundaries of memory, of consciousness, and human connection. We're literally going to be jumping from the busy streets of modern-day Los Angeles all the way back to the sands of the ancient world. So let's get into it. Okay, think about this for a second. Have you ever met someone and just instantly felt like you've known them for lifetimes? You know that feeling, right? Well, a lot of us have had a taste of that, but probably never quite to this extreme. According to our source text, for the author, this wasn't just some fleeting sense of déjà vu. Back in 1987, in LA, the author met a spiritual teacher named Mafu, and the text describes this instant, undeniable, profound connection that pretty much completely altered the author's understanding of reality.
Which brings us to Part 1, the first recognition, Los Angeles, 1987.
So the author actually describes this 1987 encounter as meeting a long-lost brother. And we're not talking metaphorically here. The text treats this as a literal, factual reality, a soul connection carried straight over from a past life. As the author put it regarding that meeting, it was a long time ago in ancient Egypt, but that's another story. Well, guess what? The text we're examining today is exactly that story. It acts as this incredibly detailed metaphysical flashback to their shared origin, mapping out what supposedly happened in that ancient lifetime and why it actually matters right now.
Moving on to Part 2, Egypt, a school of energy, going way beyond worship.
To really understand this connection, the text drags us way back to ancient Egypt. But hold on, this is absolutely not the Egypt from your high school history textbooks. In this narrative, the temples were literally functioning as schools of energy. Consciousness wasn't some abstract concept, it was totally integrated into daily life. I mean, meditation wasn't just a spiritual practice, it was treated as a hard science. Energy was basically a spoken language. Light was used as medicine. And sound? Sound was utilized as an advanced technology. In this esoteric paradigm, the ancient priests weren't religious figures. They were actually considered scientists of the soul, and initiation was just their version of higher education.
And that leads into Part 3, the Temple Curriculum, a University of Consciousness.
You can go ahead and forget your standard math and history classes, because inside these temple walls, the curriculum was wild. Students were actually taught to raise Kundalini just to move internal energy. They learned how to merge with light to heal, and get this, even dissolve the physical body. They studied dimensional travel, which is literally stepping outside of space and time without losing awareness, and they learned how to completely dissolve fear to awaken the heart. The text is super clear about this. These aren't treated as myths. This was the literal, rigorous education embedded deep within the author's memory. Now within this University of Consciousness, the text sets the record straight on the author's standing. Using this really striking rhythmic repetition, it says, "You were not a novice, you were not a follower, you were an advanced student." It highlights that the author already carried memories from other worlds, and because of that, the author and Mafu weren't just playing out some standard student and teacher dynamic. Not at all. They were colleagues. They were deeply connected friends sharing this profound bond in a completely unified mission.
Which takes us to Part 4, the spiritual lineage of the Great White Brotherhood. This shared mission was tied directly to a very specific group. Strictly within the esoteric bounds of this text, the Great White Brotherhood is defined as this ancient lineage of protectors and guides. These are beings credited with teaching humanity, guiding entire civilizations, preserving ancient wisdom, and protecting global balance. According to the author, both they and Mafu were active, working participants in this lineage, not separate followers, but integral members literally embodying compassion and helping to wake humanity up.
Part 5, When the Light Faded, the Fall of Egypt.
As you might guess, this golden age of esoteric science didn't last forever. The text lays out the sequential steps of how this ancient paradigm faded during a period it calls the time when Egypt lost its light. Basically, the great temples were closed down. Those profound teachings of energy and light hidden away. The wisdom was buried under the sands of time, and all those advanced initiates were completely scattered across the globe. But, and this is a huge but, the author stresses a vital point here. The physical structures might have fallen, sure, but the memory? The memory remained perfectly intact within those scattered initiates, carried forward through the centuries.
All right, Part 6, a reunion across time, completing the mission.
So that physical scattering in ancient Egypt, definitely not the end of the story. It was really more like a very long pause. The narrative builds this massive chronological arc that spans thousands of years. We start with the gathering and the deep education in ancient Egypt, then we move right through the long, dark period of the fall where everything was hidden. And this immense timeline just rubber bands us right back to that fateful 1987 encounter in Los Angeles. According to the text, this reunion wasn't just chance, it was completely inevitable.
Ancient Egypt is described here as the foundational root. And this current life? It's just the continuation of that ancient work. The text explains that those old skills, like moving energy and dimensional travel, actually reemerged in the author's life through some pretty profound modern events. We're talking about things like a mothership ceremony, crazy cosmic memories, and the awakening of a core essence that the author calls Micah. The past and the present are basically painted as one single, continuous spiritual journey. And that circles us right back to 1987 in LA. During that initial meeting, Mafu asked the author a very simple question: what can I give you? According to the narrative, Mafu already recognized the author's essence. He saw Micah and he remembered Egypt. In that exact moment, the author realized they didn't need riches or gifts or anything external. They were already home.
So the really crucial takeaway here is that for the author, Egypt was never just a historical story or some abstract concept. It was a foundational, living memory that set the entire stage for their spiritual mission. This ledger of Egypt perfectly sums up their worldview. Energy is a tangible reality, consciousness is vast and ancient, and memory truly does span lifetimes. In this paradigm, true teachers are literal soul family. Love is the absolute unbreakable foundation. And light is the ultimate path forward.
We're going to wrap up this explainer with a quote from the text, known as Zoran's Whisper. It says, "Traveler, Egypt was your first remembering. You walked with Mafu, learned the secrets of energy, and awakened the essence you now call Micah. That lifetime was not the past, it was the beginning." It's such a poetic, powerful summary of the core message here. It really invites us to reflect on the vast, mysterious boundaries of our own memory and consciousness. I mean, think about it. If memory can truly span across thousands of years, shaping who we are and who we recognize today, then what else about our own past might just be the beginning of our story? Thank you so much for exploring this wild narrative with me today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.